I've always had a passion for art, an obsession ignited by my early visits to galleries filled with tortured souls trapped within frames. But my collection took a dark turn when I stumbled upon an auction house lost between city avenues. It was there that I encountered the Ailing Eyes, a seemingly ordinary work by an obscure artist whose life had ended tragically. The painting gripped me with its surreal yet compelling nature. A young woman stood at the center, her intricate gown flowing like smoke as she gazed out with hollow, haunting eyes. Surrounding her were indistinct figures statuesque and shadowy which gave the whole scene an eerie depth. I had to have it. It didn't matter that the bidding soared beyond reason. By the end of the night, I was the sole owner of something I could only describe as exquisite madness. With each passing night, my home transformed into a gallery of obsession. I'd sit cross-legged on the floor, the painting on the wall looming like a dark mirror reflection. The gaslight flickering overhead cast dancing patterns that made the woman seem to shift slightly, her expression warping like a blissful dream, turning into a nightmare. At first, I dismissed the thought surely. It was just my tired mind playing tricks. I began to observe closely. Moving from one angle to another, I noticed something strange. The figures behind the woman began shifting when the light changed, subtly adjusting their positions. It felt like they were alive. One night, with the room swallowed by darkness, I leaned in, squinting at the canvas. Under the lower edge of the frame, I touched a spot that had previously gone unnoticed, a shadow that pulled gently at the edges of my vision. I blinked, and suddenly the outlines of the figures fused together, revealing a deeper reality. They were crawling toward her, their twisted limbs stretching grotesquely as they reached out like hungry tendrils. Panic clawed inside me, but as I stepped back, I yearned to understand. I convinced myself I was witnessing an artistic dimension, an immersive experience of the artist's torment, knotted with whispers of history. I took notes obsessively, scrawling down details of expressions and gestures, the woman's wide-eyed vulnerability, the figure's bent backs, fingers that seemed to twitch. Days turned into weeks, and what started as an innocent appreciation warped into sleepless nights, filled with dread and fascination. I painted every emotion upon the canvas of my thoughts: love, despair, loathing. The essence of the painting seeped into me until I found that I could no longer separate myself from it. The figures in the painting appeared to grow bolder. One stormy night, with thunder cracking overhead, I saw a whispering face emerge in the background just behind the main figures, not there before. It smiled, its lips stretching inhumanly wide, revealing jagged teeth. I staggered backward, flinging myself to the floor, my heart hammering against my ribs. Yet, as I shifted positions, the face faded like mist, leaving only shock behind. I stopped sleeping. Days blurred into nights and nights into days. The haunting noises of my studio scratches, sobs invaded my existence. I was short-tempered, fractious, and my appetite waned as the painting consumed me. Yet every time I passed it, I felt tethered, like a moth pinned to an intricate structure, drawn closer to destruction. It was on the eve of my final unraveling that I dared approach the canvas one last time. The room was suffocated in shadows, a dim light flickering, revealing what my strained mind had long suspected. The figures were not merely lifeless shapes. They were souls, eyes echoing despair as they crept toward her from all corners of the painting. The woman, once a serene presence, now bore a dreadful expression of agony, like a puppet caught in a web of invisible strings. Suddenly, I felt something cold brush against my cheek, a fingertip, light as a caress, and I froze. The figures, now nearly pressed against the canvas's edge, their twisted faces contorted in a chorus of muted screams. Then, in a jarring moment, the room fell into complete silence. My mind screamed at me to run, but I couldn't move. My gaze remained fixed on the woman, who was no longer grinning. Her hollow eyes pierced my soul as if beckoning me to join her in the madness she had become part of. I felt an overwhelming pull, as if the very canvas was alive, breathing in sync with my pulse. Before I could even react, my body began to shift. My arms twisted unnaturally, stretching and contorting as if they no longer belonged to me. My hands moved as though under the command of some otherworldly force, lifting my body closer to the painting. The figures on the canvas reached toward me, their limbs stretching in time with mine, welcoming me into their world. The air grew cold and oppressive as my body merged with the painted scene. I felt my form dissolving, fading into the strokes of the artist's hand, my body becoming one with the twisted figures. The last thing I saw was my own face staring back at me from within the canvas, my hollow eyes forever trapped in the same agonizing expression as the woman. And as the room fell into stillness, the painting was no longer just a work of art. It was a prison, an eternal reflection of torment, where I now joined the rest of the souls, caught forever in a world that had once been nothing more than a painted illusion.